Rick, how are you?
Well, good morning, Keith. I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing good. You got your warm-up jacket on there. Is it cold in Sedona?
It's not too bad. It's like I'd say mid 30s this morning, and then it gets down to maybe freezing. It's kind of hard to predict, but it gets up to say 65-ish during the day, which makes it all worthwhile. We have beautiful, beautiful sunrises and beautiful sunsets because there's so much moisture in the air. There's lots of particles to bounce off of. You get the pinks and the salmons and the violets. It's lovely.
You know what strikes me about that, Rick, is when you were living down here in the Phoenix area in Scottsdale, you still had that kind of appreciation and gratitude for wherever you were. So, the fact that you're in Sedona or the fact that you're in Scottsdale or, on the drive back from, Salt Lake City, like you recently did, you always cultivate that gratitude, like you find the novelty. And what's interesting is that if you have a troubled mind where you lack the ability to see gratitude, you can be in a place as beautiful as Sedona and miss all of it, if you're trapped into your mind. And that's kind of the theme of what I want to talk about is you had a recent experience in which, you shared that there was a lot of gratitude that you felt. Can you share that today?
Absolutely. So, our bodies, I think, are fragile, and there are things that happen with our bodies that sometimes we can't account for and are surprised by. And non-accounting and being surprised took me by surprise last about 2 weeks ago. I had a little event, and I was worried about my heart, and I thought maybe there was something serious going on because I felt dizzy, and I've been a jock all my life, so I know what that feels like to be tired from a workout and so forth. But long story short, I just felt like maybe, hell, I'm old, and maybe this is the start of something terrible, and I need to get it checked out. So, because you have your connection to Mayo's, and of course the Mayo's reputation, and also our friend Brian Chong and Brian Hardaway, who are also at Mayo's, I booked an appointment with Dr. Hardaway in the cardiology department at Mayo's. Now, I got to tell you something. That's where all similarity between regular hospitals and Mayo's ends. Keith, I have never experienced the kind of care and the kind of concern and the kind of just complete embryonic feeling of being taken care of as I have with Mayo's. It was just an enormously pleasing and confidence boosting experience. And it wasn't only just that the docs and the staff were so medically competent, it was that. But in addition to that, it was that they went out of their way to make sure that here I am, a stranger, felt comfortable. There are a lot of folks, and me included, who are apprehensive when they go and see a doc, and especially if it's something life threatening. But I swear, every one of the people that I met was just perfect. They couldn't have been any kinder. They couldn't have been any more receptive to what was going on. They asked me questions about how I was doing. They teased me. They were just a group of pleasant people. And I said to you afterwards, I thought, well, hell, do you guys interview not only for medical competence and excellence, but do you also have like a personality inventory that you give these wonderful people? So bottom line is, I was very frightened about whether this was the downhill slide for me. It turned out it wasn't. But I was so grateful for the gentleness and the experienced people who were so kind and beautiful to me. And I love the idea that there's a bubble on the earth somewhere where that entire institutional bubble is full of nothing but competence, excellence, gratitude, and kindness. Great experience.
Absolutely, Rick. And that's been my experience too of being there is it's I feel that with the people that I work with. And so it's no surprise to me that you had that same experience, during your time there for your care. I remember calling you to check on you and see how you were doing. And you were like, Keith, do you guys only hire angels?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I was
What
blown away. Yeah,
what a
blown away.
compliment. And having, gone and received my own care there, I was like, this is real. Like, this is real, for employees. And I'm just so grateful to be in that kind of place. And it's baked in. It is literally baked in. I remember the first time I met our friend Brian Chong, it was 115 degrees. We were going to walk through the hospital down to the cafeteria. And when Brian said, why don't we take a walk outside instead? Like that would be better. And so, my personal mind was like, walk outside. It's 115 out there, So I was still doing my practice, but but that was a weak moment. So we walked outside to get to the other end of the hospital. And we saw this patient. It's my first time meeting Brian. We saw this patient, and I think they were a husband and wife, and he was in a wheelchair and she was pushing him in. And Brian stopped and he said, "Are you folks okay? Are we taking good care of you?"
Oh, man.
And then we continued. They smiled and we went on our way. And that stuck with me. And I always say hello to everyone when I'm at Mayo, employees as well as patients and visitors. But that event that took place about 4.5 years ago has struck me so much and stayed with me that I've modeled that behavior when I see patients. I ask them, "How are you doing? Are we doing a good job for you today? Is there anything I can do for you?" It only takes a little, extra time, not even a second. But like you said, for just a lot of people coming to Mayo, it's typically or sometimes the worst day of their lives or their loved ones' lives. And so that act of kindness just goes a long way, and you get something on the other side of it. Like you feel good in doing it. And so it was just a gift to me to be around him, and then to hear about your experience that, the founders of the company, the brothers, the father, the Mayos, as well as the Franciscan nuns, that they had that presence of mind to make sure that this was the foundational element of the kind of culture that they wanted in the care that they provided to patients, and that it's lasted for over 150 years. And like that kind of commitment, it has to be enacted purposely, intentionally on a regular basis. And hence, that's why you and I do our practice, is so we can consistently show up that way. I always say, like, I work on myself so other people don't have to work on me.
Well, and it's a full-time job, right?
It's a full-time job.
We're also fallible. I just I got a kick out of it last night. I was thinking about something, and I came down really hard on judging somebody. And I can't remember even what the context of it was, but that just raises the issue that your psychological and emotional well-being is always something that you need to keep an eye on. Always, you never put it on autopilot, because a human's autopilot is not very nice. I think we're trained to sort of be selfish and greedy and preoccupied with self and not concerned with the other chap. But getting back to Mayo's, I think the founders, if they didn't realize it, certainly the people who are custodians of that culture do, which is that there's an enormous connection between psychological and emotional health as well as the physical side of things. And I think they do their damnedest to make sure that the psychological experience, the emotional experience that someone who is sick is going through, that experience is heightened, that experience is positive rather than negative. And no matter what happens on the physical side, that has got to be a benefit to improving patient health. And it certainly was my experience, even with my small brush with this. And I think you're a very lucky dude to be able to hang your hat at that place. What a wonderful, wonderful place to work with wonderful people. And my goodness, they're doing such a great job for everyone, and me in particular. I'm eternally grateful.
Awesome, Rick. I'll take that. I'll share it with my colleagues. Brian Hardaway and Brian Chong. Big shout out to them, Rick. I love you.
I love you too. And don't forget John too. John's in that mix. I didn't see him this trip, but he's another one that's
oh yeah, to John DeCuna. Are you kidding me? To live
and Draz as well.
Yeah.
all those guys.
All my friends, right? I wrote deep at Mayo. Yeah, man. Like we'll have to do. Why don't we do the next podcast and I can share a little bit about John. Just very tremendous for me. So I love you, Rick.
I love you, Keith. Adios. We'll see you next time.